Sup? It's been a while. And welcome back to the Nerd.Inc Podcast. I'm joined by long showrunner host Kelpo. Hello there.
This chicken tastes good.
Thank you. I'm also joined by other longtime host Nix. Hello there, Nix.
Hello! How's it going, bro?
And since we've last been here, I've changed my name from what it was before to now, which is Deus. As in the Latin word for God, yes. So, we should probably catch everyone up on what we've been doing in the past past year, actually. Alright, Kelpo, do you want to start us off? Nope, okay.
Doing a whole bunch, honestly. I've just been indulging myself in the world of guitar and cars because that's what every quirky white boy does with their lives now.
Would you like to give us a guitar solo?
I don't know what he's saying.
Would you like to do a guitar solo?
Do it.
A guitar solo? I don't know.
Yeah, go on, show us what you've been learning.
My self-taught badness. Okay, fine. Just give me a minute. Keep the people entertained while I tune.
Keep people entertained? Okay, I can do that. So, a man walks into a bar. No, I'm joking. Okay. So, I've been super busy. I've been, crying. No, I've been going through a lot of changes myself. I've been a lot more happier since we've last been here. I've also, well, as of November, I've also started being a moderator for a VTuber known as Fia Bunny, aka the Virtual Reality Show, available on YouTube. And later today in this episode, we're actually going to be interviewing another Fia moderator. However, they're also a game developer, Mr. Krayfishkarl of Crayfish Entertainment, maker of Droplet States of Matter. We'll be with him shortly, though. In about, we'll say, 10-15 minutes. Next, what have you been up to?
Oh, well, I've been, going. Basically, I haven't been doing that much. I mean, I've been happier. That's good.
Well, yeah, it's good. It's good when people are happy. Okay.
I can agree to that. I can agree to it's better when more people are happy, but in the state that I live in, it's rare.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't live here.
I
You visit. That's what you do.
I don't even live in the country.
2 months a year, so I technically live here, and plus I was born here, so...
Alright, Kelpo, you ready?
I guess.
Okay.
Mind you, this is all self-taught with just the help of one person.
Okay.
And yeah, that's about it. That's copyrighted, by the way, so
Oh, great.
have fun with that one.
It's alright. I'll probably just, add an audio effect or something that'll get rid of the copyright stuff. Okay.
That was amazing.
Yeah, well done.
Right.
I
Not my
can't
song.
Yeah,
Full disclosure, that is a song by Deftones. Don't sue me.
We will see you. So, what else has everyone been getting up to in the year that we've been apart?
Got a new dog.
Got a new job?
Dog.
Oh,
DOG.
dog. Right.
Yep.
Lovely. Dogs are adorable. I wouldn't say as
What about
adorable
you?
as cats, but
No, I'm wrong.
to each their own. We'll agree on that.
Cats are better.
What about you next?
Oh, well, I mean, I've been, I don't know, I've been watching, like, YouTube, I guess. I haven't been doing much. I've been drawing more,
The
so
entire thing that you've been doing the year that
I've
we've been gone.
improved my art style, and I also finished 2 of my favorite shows.
Alright. That's art thing's cool. 2 shows, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
You been watching any shows, Clubhouse?
Yeah. I guess. I've been struggling, but I've been watching Stranger Things because that's what everyone's doing now. So.
Oh yeah, Stranger Things 4 came
I'm
out.
just
I love
I'm
it.
showboating this.
I love Stranger Things 4. It's amazing.
I haven't
never-
made it that far yet.
You'll
Actually,
love it.
the funny thing is, I watched I watched 3 episodes of season 4 before I even started the show, and that was because 2 of my friends are in season 4, and I went to their house for like an after-school party thing to watch Stranger Things to see them as a background character. I tell you, it was underwhelming, but we just won't tell them that.
Well done.
I've never seen that show, but, like, one of the characters is really attractive, not gonna lie.
Which one?
Eddie Munson.
Wrong, Steve Harrington.
No,
Wrong. Mike Wheeler.
No. No. I don't get it. Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard is like so good looking.
Oh.
He is.
But it's just because I could be the straight man, but I don't know. I don't see anything attractive about Finn Wolfhard.
Alright, listen, I'll give you Steve Harrington because he is like the stereotypical like dad character. But that's as far as the good things go.
Agree.
Still, Mike Wheeler.
What?
No further questions. No. Any other shows? Any other shows?
Not really. That's about it as far as shows go, because I can't sit through them. I just get too
I just
distracted.
finished Black Butler.
You just finished what?
Black Butler, it's an anime.
Ah, right. I haven't watched anime in like, I don't know, like 3 years now, 4 years maybe.
I understand.
Understandable. Get out of that cesspit before it gets bigger.
Yep.
Well, personally, I've been watching any new show that on Disney Plus has been coming out, like Moon Knight, Book of Boba Fett, Ms. Marvel. That's the new one.
I don't know why, but I kind of just
Hmm?
I just refuse to watch any of those shows because I don't know. I just don't feel like they're authentic or anything. Like
They're actually like
how
really good,
are.
and they do connect to the movies as well, which is good. Like for example, for the new Doctor Strange movie, you would have had to watch like WandaVision to understand it.
Something funny, but, like, also not funny. And, like, also, you guys are gonna yell at me for this. So, like, I've never seen any of the Marvel movies, but I watched, Multiverse Madness.
That's
None of it makes sense.
well, no, they do make sense. They all have a continuity. It's just
I
hard
love
to
that.
wrap your head around.
I think Doctor Strange is attractive, not gonna lie.
You think?
Well, I've never seen Multi Madness because again, I repeat it.
You think Benedict Cucumber is attractive?
Yeah. But only with a beard. Like, only when he's Doctor Strange.
Right. Okay.
Right. Totally not
Yeah.
something else. We're just not talking about that. And Nix knows exactly what I'm talking about. because we've had this
What do
conversation before.
you mean?
We've had this conversation before.
Don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Yes, you do. But
I've also, like I mentioned before, I've been rewatching the Clone Wars recently. I'm on season 4, episode, I don't know. It's really good. I obviously grew up watching the Clone Wars like you two probably did. Maybe not, I don't know. But it's been nice to relive the nostalgia.
you know what? Speaking of like reliving nostalgia and growing and watching shows that we grew up on, I have been binge watching Adventure Time for like the past 3 weeks.
Adventure Time. I've actually never watched that.
You're kidding.
I've never watched a single episode of Adventure Time.
You really got it.
Nor a regular show.
What?
In terms of like Cartoon Network and stuff, the only shows that I've watched are Steven Universe and Amazing World of Gumball.
Offended.
I am also offended.
Listen, I apologize. I wanted to get into Adventure Time. I just never had the time, and whenever I did want to watch it, it wasn't on. I couldn't be bothered recording episodes to watch them because it was so unreliable. But now we have streaming services.
Thank God for streaming services. I don't know what I'd do without them.
I'd probably do a lot
Thank
without them. Save a lot of money, that's for sure.
I didn't have them. I don't.
If you stop spending your $5 a month on a Disney Plus, you could probably get yourself a Lamborghini for like an hour.
That's probably true.
Yeah, but it's just like spending money on coffee, though, isn't it? Like, if you get a coffee a day, then you're like missing out on buying like super luxury items because you're spending that $2 on coffee. I'm like, okay.
Well, okay.
Cool.
Contrary, I don't drink coffee, so.
Well, yeah, neither do I.
And yet I still don't have any luxuries.
I don't drink coffee, yet I'm still broke. What the fuck am I doing wrong? Although, to be fair, I don't have a job, so.
That's true. Hey, I think you did. I
Oh,
thought you were
no.
a busser.
No.
No? Oh. Well, I guess a year has passed, so that's fair.
But yeah, there's a thing as well that I've kind of started developing because a bit of backstory. Me and Kelpo met each other through these VR chat clone communities from back in the day. We won't speak too much on them though because it's kind of a toxic space. But every single time I watch the Clone Wars now, and I see like all the named characters and all that, or I see like battalions like the 501st and stuff, I can't help but think of those times. And it's kind of a sad thing and also a good thing at the same time. It's a good thing that I'm remembering all the good times that were there, but it's also kind of a bad thing because
That you're remembering it.
yeah, it's also bad because then that never leaves my head. Because like I'll be looking at like Captain Rex and I'll be like, oh, that's that one person, and I'll be like, yeah, they were cool. I haven't talked to them in a while though.
Wait. I get what you're saying. It's like, oh yeah, that's that one person. Wait, didn't something happen with that one person and that other person? What happened?
Yeah, exactly that.
I get that all the time. Because eventually, every now and then, I'll like go into VR chat and I'll like scroll through and be like, I remember that guy. And I was like, oh yeah, I also remember what
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
that guy
because-
did.
Yeah, it's really hard because like a lot of the old friends that we had have like turned into like some of the worst like fucking people.
Exactly.
Like I'm not gonna like name drop or anything, and nor do
Yeah.
I really want to specifically speak on it. But like we've had people like, God, like turn into like neo-Nazis and shit. It was horrible,
Yeah.
and I hate it. So I'm so thankful we left that community.
Funny thing is, I recently, well, not really recently. It was actually kind of right after, right after our like last recording, and pretty much when I went into, the thing is like into summer, I joined this one group. It was a GTA group. I kind of regret it only because it was what we did in VR chat. GTA, same toxic environment, and it's like nothing's changed. I know this environment all too well. This is awful. I wish not to be here.
Yeah, no, it seems that with a lot of like those like RP communities, it gets toxic real fast.
And it was even worse because the leader, the guy doing it, I still talk to him today because he's a good guy, but he's a Marine. And those are some of the people. Because another thing, I'm not, okay, disclaimer on this one, I am not dissing what you believe in or anything like that, but he's a very religious person, and he uses religion as a go-to and key for everything. And if you do that, that's fine, but I'm not a religious person.
Yeah, not me neither. I'm not a religious person by any means.
I'm not religious at all.
I've spoken with our special guest numerous times because we're close friends, and whenever we like talk about religion, I'm always like, oh yeah, no, I don't believe there's like any god or anything, but like if you can show me a miracle and replicate like 20 times, I'll follow your religion and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
like kind of nice, but like I always like to believe that there's some kind of like being above us, whether it be good or bad or whatever.
I mean, in believing in afterlife as a comfort thing, sure, go ahead. I'm not gonna stop you.
Oh, I believe in
But-
stuff like that. Like it's nice
Yeah.
to think of that stuff. Like I've always had like multiple theories on like what the afterlife might be like. Like one theory that I had was like when you die, you just like sort of get nursed back to health like instantly, and all of a sudden you're in this like alternate dimension where life just carries on, and like you're just happy all the time because like things like, for example, like you see like you lost a loved one when you're like 6, like that person's suddenly back, you know, and like it's nice to think of like that being like an afterlife, but at the same time heaven and hell is probably the most common one.
Yeah, it really is the most common one.
Do you have any
But
fears?
that's just because Christianity has taken everything by storm.
Yay, Christianity! We love
Christianity and Catholicism.
Yeah. Hey guys, let's all praise God.
Yeah, but
we
like if you
probably
do,
shouldn't stay
I
on
ain't
this
dissing
topic.
it. Believe what you want to believe, but that's just not us.
Yeah. Right. I think we've caught up a decent amount. Nick, do you have anything else you want to add?
Maybe.
I don't know. Just like, don't force your religion on other people, I guess.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I
shitty.
read that one. Don't force anything on anybody. Honestly, it's one of the worst things. I've had that happen to me so many times that it's just very annoying.
Yeah.
With
Alright.
many different things.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly hide the podcast window while I DM special guest here.
Okay.
I'm also getting DMs. Okay. Yeah.
His inbox is overflowing right now.
Oh yeah, no, you'd be surprised how many DMs I get on a daily.
Cowboy! Cowboy!
What?
How are you not hot? Isn't it like 90 degrees right now?
mean?
What
I have a
temperature?
swamp cooler.
How hot is it?
Wait, what do you mean?
How hot is it outside?
How hot? I don't know. I'm not outside.
Are you
I can
inside then?
check. Would you like me to check?
Yes, I would like you to check because I'm like dying right now.
Weather is it's 93. Not terrible.
Okay, it's 90 there. It's 90 degrees over here.
It's 93 degrees outside. Yeah.
All right, we should probably introduce our guest then. So, like I mentioned before, this person is also a moderator of the virtual reality show, like me. However, his main spark of him is that he is a game developer. He runs his own, I think it's a one-person company called Crayfish Entertainment, and his name is Krayfishkarl, and he is the game developer of Droplet States of Matter, and we're welcoming him to the podcast today. Let's wait for him to join.
Bring him in.
Bring him in. Bring him in. Bring him in. All right. We'll give him. We'll
Come on, Nick. Join him. Join him in the chat.
We'll give him a couple minutes. Bring him in. Bring him in. Bring him in. Bring him in.
Bring him in. You know, one thing that actually I wanted to mention over the past year that we've been gone, I've been hitting up that photography. What is it? Photography ride. We'll go with that. That photography ride hard.
Oh yeah, I keep seeing like your Instagram like stories and stuff,
Yeah.
like your photography account and all that. He's here.
Oh, that was myself.
Hello, guys. Hello there, Mr. Krayfishkarl. Hello.
Hey everyone.
Welcome to the Nerd.Inc Podcast.
Glad to be here.
You're our first interview since our return, because this is our first episode.
Nerd.Inc season 2.
Nerd.Inc season
Awesome.
2. Yeah, so I've already mentioned you to these guys, but I might as well give everyone a slight introduction again. So this is Krayfishkarl. He is the sole developer of Droplet States of Matter. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that. I've had some help from just like volunteers. Like I got someone like to just do a couple of recolorings on like some paints, for example, and then of course got some voice actors. But
Yeah.
aside from that, like all the coding, art direction, programming, like all of that is basically me.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Actually, I appreciate any programmer that I speak to because I know how hard they work. I have very, very little experience of anything like that, but I still know the immense hours that it takes just to do something even real.
Oh yeah,
Really small.
it's definitely a lot of work. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I do program myself. It can be a hassle sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is the sole developer of Droplet States of Matter, granted a few volunteers.
Yeah.
You run your one-man company, Crayfish Entertainment, right?
Yep. That is correct.
And again, you're our first guest here, and we have some interview questions for you.
Alrighty. Okay.
Standard run-of-the-mill interview question.
Yeah, really standard. All right, so Caleb, do you want to kick us off with the first one?
Yep. I have, oh my god, it's like a Google Doc sheet that was brought to my attention yesterday. So, but, first question is, what is the thought process when you first think of making a game, or what your first thought of was when you were creating the game that you're creating now?
So basically, well, a lot of my thought process comes down to a lot of experimentations and just seeing it would be a very cool idea. So in Drop in particular, it actually has roots with a game that I created, I think, like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Like when I was back in high school, like there was like this competition. It's called the Technology Student Association, and we had to make like this short educational game. So at the time, I was thinking, hey, how cool would it be to have like a platformer game, but based on like different states of matter? That would have some educational value behind it. And I'm proud to say that particular idea got very far, and that I got first place in the nation, like for the competition.
Oh, dang.
So, come like a decade later, I'm just thinking, this is a really cool idea I made, and I'm trying to learn how to make a 3D game with Unreal Engine. So, why not expand upon it and see what I can do like now with this third axis? But it took me a lot to go back to the days of how they approached like N64 development. They were getting IPs that started as a 2D game, but then put it in a 3D world. So oh, I'm sorry, were you trying to say something?
No, sorry, Echo. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, so basically, I think what I had to look at a lot for inspiration was some early 3D platformers just to see how the developers handle that. Because if you look at later games, like modern games that create today, they take a lot of inspiration from the early 3D games, and like these were like kind of like the pioneer type games. So I played a lot of Mario 64 and Spyro and Crash Bandicoot just to try to get a feel for how they approach things. And then I just had to refine and balance how I'm making this game because this is the first time of making a game that's like this. And actually, there was only one other game that I made with Unreal Engine before this, but it was more like a prototype. But this one in particular was like my first like complete, fully 3D game.
Okay,
Well,
that's actually that sounds really good. So you said that you won first place nationwide. That must have been great.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was something. Like it just reinforced for me that this was more than just like a hobby that I was just doing like after I finished all my homework and stuff. I figured this was something that I could like develop and learn as a true skill that could benefit. Well, I was going to say benefit society. I don't know how far of a claim that goes just yet, but in some ways, like use it to kind of enhance my own personal skills, just so I can like get a job somewhere as a software engineer.
Yeah. Or even, hey, why not make your own software thing and just have someone, because at this point, at the rate that you're going, because if you won champion or like nationwide when you were in high school, a decade later of practicing, learning, and just experiencing or just maybe I'll go to word for this. You could really make, especially in when an age where video games or just like anything as the such you can make a really big career off of that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a hobby right now, but I want to see how far I can take this thing because I think there is a little benefit for it being like kind of hobbies. Like basically, like Crayfish Entertainment is not my main job, but basically, I'm not necessarily constrained by deadlines or anything. So there's kind of a balance I have to take in terms of like I guess commitment to whether this could be like my pure livelihood or something on the side. That's something I'm still kind of figuring out, but I'm pretty happy where it is right now. But of course, I can always like, do even better in the next game as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's very interesting. As someone who does want to be like a game developer myself, as well.
Mhm.
Like I think I've told you this before, but I do kind of look up to you in a way.
Oh,
Because like seeing all the things that you're doing with Droplet and stuff, it's really inspiring.
I'm glad that it is. I'm flattered.
All right. Oh, Nix, do you have the document open, by the way, or should we just read the questions?
Oh. Yeah, I got the document open.
All right. Do you want to ask the next question then?
Wait, what question are you on again? I'm sorry.
The second question.
Alright.
The question that we ask in the document, I'll just cross it out. So if you can see that.
Alright. How long have you been into game development?
Well, actually, that's actually a pretty broad question, but I guess I'll go back to the very beginning. So, like, the first game like that I made that was actually a playable thing of any sorts was actually way back since 2005 when I went to it was a summer camp for like games that basically we made our own game in a week, and I made this game about like a cat trying to stop like this evil mouse in a futuristic city. So that was my first one. It was based on a lot of like weird childhood imagination stuff. I had a very active mind as a kid, and then of course I want to continue that. So 2005 was the start, but I mean, I've had these like ideas and IPs since the turn of the millennium. But I would say like I started making more and more games. Like when I entered my first year of high school, so around 2007, and then okay, it was actually towards the end of that school year, 2008 was when I made the first competition level game. It's about a chef. You have to find the ingredients to bring it back to an oven. Actually, a lot of these older games are currently available on my website. I ported them to HTML5 a little while ago, so they're not perfect ports from how they originally played, like on ClickTeam Fusion, because this was going through like several generations of like an older software, but they're up there for like a little bit of an archive. And I guess if you were to play those and then compare them to like the Droplet States of Matter as it is now, you might even see some sort of evolutionary similarities between like character design and all the stuff, and how I kind of changed over the years in a matter of speaking.
Well, that's
Actually, I'd be interested in seeing those. I'll definitely look it up.
Okay.
Right now, actually.
yeah. Let's get some live reactions. All right. So while Kelpo's doing that, I'll ask the next question.
Okay.
So, what are the three main struggles you encounter when trying to think of making a game?
Oh, okay. Narrowing down to three is a little bit hard, so I don't know if I can name the hardest ones, but I'll just give you a couple examples. So I think part of it, like when you're starting out, is just trying to... I didn't really take a lot of classes on how to actually make games beyond like just reading on Google, and I guess there was a couple of game design related or just programming classes I took in high school and college. So a lot of it's just experimenting, just trying to get something to work. So that's the first struggle. And in my opinion, that's a very strong barrier of entry to new programmers. It's a little bit of a frustration of not seeing imminent results on the screen right away. So like they said make a game, and then all of a sudden they can't get the player to move, or they can't figure out why it's not compiling, or there's like some like rare errors being thrown or something like that. So that's a major struggle, I would say. I think the third, the second one is, I'd say, even just finishing it, because even after you've made a game, you've made a prototype, trying to see it through to the end is very difficult, because especially if you have a perfectionist mind like myself, then you want to make sure like everything is perfect down to its last detail, and that's part of why making a game can take a very long time. But as long as you're perseverant about it, and like you actually want to have a game in the end, I think that's what's most important. But the third struggle, I would say, is this one actually can be one of the hardest ones, is you make your game and then you suddenly find that you don't like it. Basically, the idea you tried out something, like maybe like the audience wasn't quite fond of it, or maybe like you find something that's not particularly fun. So one of the toughest decisions that you may have to make every now and then is like throw something out. Actually, I did that pretty recently with Droplet States of Matter. I actually
We talked
did a
about
lot
this.
of cutting for some of the levels. Like there's a whole bunch of secret levels in the game, but I was finding playtesters were telling me that the game was kind of long, and I was just trying to figure out why. And because like there is a lot of levels, and I was very ambitious in getting so many levels out there, but then it kind of hit me that going for more less is more approach would be better, just to kind of refine the best levels I have right now. And you'll actually see that a lot in the game development. Actually, that's why you have like whole wikis dedicated to like the unused content you find in games, because there's a lot of leftover ideas that don't make it into a game. But that's why I have sequels and DLC.
Yeah. That's yeah. I can see that. Yeah, and we talked very recently on you like cutting content for Droplet as well. Like I think it was like, what was it, like last week maybe? I can't remember.
Actually, I am on your website right now, and I am reading the article of the cup. Yeah, the level. Wait.
Oh yeah, that's the recent announcement I posted.
Yeah, the return droplet cut level.
Yeah.
Yep, I was just reading that as you were talking about it, and it's like, okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Kelvin, do you want to get the next question?
Yes, I will. All right. I know we already went over this topic of you doing some game, like you submit a game for like what you did in high school. But like, would you do more, or do you do more up and coming game development festivals? Like, what's I can't think of any on the top of my head, but like one of the big game festivals, like such as one that Landfall or other moderately big but not too big game development studios go to. Would you drop games there, or like see what they think?
Potentially, and actually, now that you remind me, so I have actually entered Droplet into a couple of competitions before, like the Droplet States of Matter. So actually, the IGN had this thing called Rogue Jam a little while ago. Oh, screensaver turned on for a second, but anyway, yeah. So they had this thing called Rogue Jam, and and people were just entering in the games that were in progress or under development. So I entered mine in, but I didn't really hear much back from them. So I'm assuming, well, obviously I didn't win because they already announced the winner to that. But I guess it is what it is. Sometimes I guess I'm not too into it right now because I guess my main focus right now is just making sure the game is getting done. Because like the Droplet States of Matter has actually been in development for a little while now, and I will say it actually has been taking up quite a bit of time. So what I am hoping is, like, after I finish the game, then I could probably look into some of these like game development festivals a little more, or maybe even like game jams or something like that. Because it has been a little while since I've made a smaller scope game, but that's definitely something I would like to get back into at some point.
Yeah, I think it would be really. I think it's interesting about game jams and stuff like that. And who knows? Maybe if you come around the time where you just kind of are spacing out on Droplet, you can maybe just take a minute and do a game jam to, I guess, refresh. I don't want to say refresh memory, but like get it. Clean slate, and then you could probably even learn from a game jam game to put into Droplet,
Oh yeah, certainly. Actually, as a matter of fact, that actually reminds me of another thing. So I think there's someone on Twitter that posted like, "Hey, game devs, can you make a game in 10 minutes and see what it is?" So I actually did that. So I fired up ClickTeam Fusion. That was like the first game making software that I learned, and I fired it up again after all these years, and I made a very simple 2D side scroller like in exactly 10 minutes, and it was actually very fun. So yeah, I would like to make some micro games like a little more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter when you posted that. That was kind of cool, actually.
Oh, glad you like it.
Yeah. Next, want to get the next question? We have partially got into it, but still, do you want to grab that one?
Sorry. Yeah. My phone isn't loading right now, but I can do it. What goes into game development?
What do you mean by like anything like specifically you're looking for?
Kind of like the general process. Like
the general process?
Yeah, kind of like the design to the actual like coding to the play testing and all that stuff.
Oh, okay. So basically, I think earlier I talked about like the prototyping phase, where basically if you have an idea, you just have to make like a very short demo of sorts that kind of demonstrates that your idea can actually work on a larger scale. So part of that is for getting the prototype is just getting the absolute minimum in order for like your game to work. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to look very fancy. As a matter of fact, graphics would be on the low priority at this point. So, basically, I guess one example I could think of is actually I used this in a presentation at a convention one time. Is that if you like Final Fantasy IV's battle system? So, if you want to make a like say a JRPG with a battle system like that, so what would you need? So, you need like the heroes, you need the bad guys, and you need some commands. So I wish I had a picture or something to show off, but essentially it would just be like you could have like these boxes and like just a bunch of squares and a white background. But as long as you're able to get like commands for your characters to do stuff working, then that's your prototype. So then after you like do some prototyping and you have a clear idea of what you want to do with your game, you also want to make sure that you have a design document. My droplet design document is admittedly not very tidy, but the idea is that you just have this long to-do list and like outlines of major features you would want to include. So part of it is also constantly brainstorming, just thinking about what ideas could work and what ones you should save for another time. So then you generally just start like making it. It's a very experimental process, and things will change along the way. So that's why, like for design documents, I don't recommend going into too much detail about what every single thing should be like, because things can change along development. And I will also say that I tend to make levels out of order, and that's probably true of like any sort of game developer, because you usually want to make me personally, I like to make like the mid-level to harder levels first, so that I'm kind of experimenting with the maximum potential of the mechanics I want to make. And then the easier levels, like the tutorial and the early game levels, those tend to be done last, because you want to refine them in a way so that a new player can understand them. So then once you have all the levels, you just want to go through it, so like the alpha testing, and catch all of the immediate bugs that anyone would find just by going through the game normally. And then like once you've done all that, you would have like a beta phase. And the beta, so like the terms like for beta testing, it's actually the word is not used correctly all that often. So a beta version of a game it's an almost complete build, but it still needs some polish. Like alpha is like far from complete. So like a beta version would have all the levels that you intend to include in the final game. And then for me personally, since I'm like my project's a lot lower budget, I usually just send the game to a couple of friends or some people I know over Discord, and I just have them play the game and give me feedback. And then once I feel confident enough that the game is good enough, or at least doesn't have as many bugs, that's when I release it out into the open internet. Like in the case of my older browser games, I just put it on there directly and just put an announcement there. And then for Steam was a little bit of a different process to getting it on there. So there's a $100 fee that you have to pay, just kind of proves that you're serious about releasing this game. And this is just to kind of call out shovelware and other low quality games. Oh, excuse me. I just need some water really quick. I'm talking quite a bit.
No worries, you're doing a lot of talking, I understand.
Anyway, so after you pay like the fee just to get your game on Steam themselves will actually test your game out just to make sure it's compatible with your systems, and they'll tell you if your build is good or not, and they'll also help you figure out like what other local stuff that needs to be installed in the system. So I've had pretty good experiences with getting my game up there. Whenever I had a question, they were very helpful with walking me through, okay, this is how all this stuff works. Then you put put up your store page, and after 2 weeks of having a coming soon kind of banner on the store page, that's when you can release your game. And then, of course, even though your game is released, it doesn't necessarily stop there. Basically, you have to wait for people to play it and see what they think about it, and then get reviews of it, and then also make sure you're doing further marketing. So there's a lot that goes into it. So there's it's all part of I was trying to find the right words. It's all part of the regular development cycle of software.
Okay. That it seems like a lot for especially just one person to think about.
Oh yeah, it is
obviously, you must be racking your brain. You must have so many wrinkles in your brain from just doing all this for Steam, or just even doing alphas and betas, and just having and collecting feedback from your games.
Oh yeah, and this is not even scratching the surface of what bigger companies do out there, because they also have things to worry about, the version control, using things like GitHub to manage different versions of the project, and then actually in my day job as a software engineer, we do something kind of like that, where we have our local version of a project, and then we push it up to a master version, which gets approved by an administrator, and then once you have all the local changes you need you can actually push out a release version to the customer, then see what they think of it. So it is a very complex process, but part of it is just it comes with experience. It's not something you're going to learn overnight. You just kind of learn as you go, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's all a very interesting thing to listen to hear about and learn about, because game development, well, it is and sounds like a very tricky thing, and to have all that go into it,
mm-hmm.
It's quite insane, if you will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, that brings us to our next question. Although I believe we've partially covered it. What made you want to, do or try game development?
Well, I was 6 years old. I played Super Mario 64. I thought it was cool and said, hey, I want to make an N64 type game one day. So.
And that you did.
Yeah, it really is that simple. I've always just been fascinated with video games. I had an N64 and a Super Nintendo growing up, but for me, it was the 3D worlds of the N64 was what especially captivated me, because I always wanted to know how they organized all that data and fit it into those little cartridges and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So oh, go ahead.
No, it's alright. We can carry on. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So I've just been. It's always been a passion for me, understanding how this stuff works. That a lot of times in my free time, I just look up on how they do that, and I spend a lot of time on the TCRF wiki, or the cutting room floor wiki, reading about unused stuff, and also reading about what kind of dev kits that they used back in the day. And we've definitely come a long way, because the release of modern engines like Unity and Unreal Engine, they've made things a lot easier. That actually, most of the time, back then, they didn't have a graphical user interface. They just wrote stuff on Notepad, and they had to make their own tools specifically for that game that they were making.
Yeah, it's how games like Call of Duty and stuff have their own engine and all that, right?
Yeah, actually, a lot of companies do that. Part of for business reasons, because for Unreal Engine, if you're a bigger developer, oftentimes you have to kind of lease out the engine. And for me, the current legal agreement is that I don't have to pay anything for Unreal Engine unless I make over $1 million. So I don't know whenever that's going to be, if ever, but they're pretty generous about that, I would say. And
Yeah,
Oh,
actually,
I know. I highly think that you'll make it.
well,
Oh, yeah.
that's very nice to think about.
Yeah, you'll make it like one day. Might not be with Droplet, might be with a different game, or it might even be with Droplet. You know.
Yeah, it'll take its time. I guess for me, like I guess I'm not quite as knowledgeable on the business side of things because I've always been more of a coding guy. So like for me, I'm not really thinking a whole lot about like the marketing aspect. And in truth, I probably should do a little more, but I like to do it a lot for the art, like just making a game that's kind of cool and not necessarily one that sells like. Or I'm not trying to make like the next Minecraft or anything like that.
Yeah, of course not. Like you have your own idea.
Yeah, I think there's a phrase I can't remember where I heard it from. Like, don't make the next big thing, or I said, don't make the next big Minecraft or whatever it is. Like, make the next you.
That's a good quote.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, it's kind of like something you'd hear like, I don't know, maybe like I want to say like maybe like David Vonderhaar. He works on like Call of Duty multiplayer and stuff. Like that sounds like something like he made because he's like a very like passionate guy about like Call of Duty and stuff. Like he doesn't want to make like the next kind of thing. He wants to make it like as it is.
Okay, yeah, that's very respectable.
Yeah, I suppose
Like,
that's kind of the mindset all game devs should really have. Like, don't try and strive to be the copy of something else.
yeah, exactly. And I think
Yeah.
that doesn't just go for games. That goes for just about any medium in general, like movies, TV, and even
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, I can really I really want to push that idea of don't make a copy of something, because me, as someone who indulges in games pretty much for 16 hours a day because I hardly do anything, I get really bored with games only because they're all realistically the same, and I really would like to have more people make new, unique games instead of just doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Also, believe it or not, actually, that was even something that I even thought about, like when making Droplet a lot, because I found like there was like a tendency, like to like unconscious tendency to kind of directly copy what some of the 3D platforms, like how Mario 64 has structured its stars are. I think in particular, the is like Spyro and collecting all the gems, and I think also another example, like Crash Bandicoot with like the time relic. So I was just thinking about, so why did they originally design these the way they were? And because for me, like there are some issues that I found with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love those games, but just to give a couple examples, like in Crash Bandicoot, the time relics are not even required to beat the game at all. So like that's something you can essentially skip, like, and not wanting to not have to do at all. And then with Spyro, a couple times, like just finding that very last gem can be a little frustrating, and actually it can be even worse if the game glitches out. I think in Spyro 3 there's a rare glitch in one of the levels where a gem disappears completely and renders you completely unable to get the 100% completion. So part of the process of like making a game is also thinking about what can you improve upon, like the flaws of the previous games. Not to say that my game's better than those. Of course, like those are absolute classics. But basically, looking for quality of life things, just to kind of evolve the formula. I think that should be the goal of any game developer. Just trying to learn from the predecessors, but kind of do a fresh take.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm gonna bring Call of Duty in the spotlight here because it's a prime example of like being a copy. Because if you look at Call of Duty, like every year, it's pretty much the same game. Granted, theme's a bit different. There's different weapons and all that. Or like a game like FIFA, it's the same every year minus a couple player updates or graphical details. But see, with like a game like Droplet, it's completely original. like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a platformer and stuff, and a lot of games are platformers, but you're taking your own spin on it, and you're making it's something like it's own. You're making it unique, and that's like something I can really respect and get behind.
And I'll be honest, I highly doubt I've ever seen a game that will use all of the specific types of states of matter exactly like how your game does. Because
Oh yeah.
I tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any other game does that.
Yeah, actually, you might be right because this is actually not the first game to be like a States of Matter type game. Actually, I've seen some mobile games that do some of the concepts, but I think Droplet States of Matter specifically it's unique in that it uses the states of matter like in a way. I think I like to compare it to how Mario has the different power ups. I haven't seen like other educational games like use the states of matter in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that they haven't done like that. Genuinely, like states of
Yeah.
matter is like one of the easiest things to learn, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised that there is no games based off of states of matter other than Droplet, and maybe a couple mobile games, but like obviously not done in the same way.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I guess you're right. But it's a very niche type of like genre, I guess. There's like the whole educational aspect as well.
And I have a side question. It's not on our sheet, but you is this something that you're passionate about? Like, do you want to become an educator through video games? Because that is a very wide open market.
Well, I never actually thought much about it. Like I've always been like just making games, but I do like to teach a lot. And I was like I'm not like a chemistry major or anything. Actually, a lot of the information that I'm conveying in Droplet, I either have like faint memories back in like 10th grade chemistry class, or I just did some Googling. But I think having some sort of like educational value, like with my creations, it's definitely a very noble goal. I think it's something I definitely want to look into a lot.
No noble like noble guesses.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm unintentionally clever.
I get that chemistry.
Yeah.
All right. I think. Yeah. Do you want to get that other question, Kalpo?
Sure, I can. This is more like we're stepping away from game development, but it still can be if you choose to it to be. But the next question that we have is, do you have anything exciting that you would like to share with us, whether it be game development or if it's just something that, hey, this would be cool and interesting and, something that you would be talkative about?
Oh, okay. So, all right. There's a couple things. So, Droplet States Matter is not the only thing I'm working on. So, I guess I am pretty secretive about my other projects, but I think I can shed a couple lights on a couple things. So, I will say that the next like game that I'm making, like with Unreal, it's gonna use Unreal Engine 5, and I won't say exactly what I think. Actually, I told Deus in
Yeah, you have.
DMs one time, but it's kind of secret. But basically, it's a new IP, basically, and I just kind of want to experiment with like a open world type game, but kind of just do like my own little take on it. So that's one. That I'm just trying to find out what to say, like without giving too much away just yet. 'Cause it's still in very early production. Like I'm actually still in the design doc phase, and I have a very simple prototype that it does take a little inspiration from Droplet in a way, but I'm finding ways to kind of improve upon that. Basically, making the next iteration of how can I design this particular game experience. So there's that, and then I guess I do a little bit of writing and world building on the side. I have this wiki. It's still under construction, but It's like a science fiction themed collaborative writing site called Galactic Crucibles, and it's been in the works for like a little over 10 years now.
Oh
So-
yeah, I've actually got a question for that later.
Oh, okay. I'd be curious to hear about it.
Yeah, it's actually the last question that we have written down. So
Oh, okay. All right. I look forward to answering your question.
yeah. Also, sorry if I interrupted. You can carry on if you want, or if that's the end of the question, we'll move on to the next one.
Oh, well, I guess I could also say that it's like the writing is just something like I do on the side. But there's a lot of basically I like to do a lot of hypothetical scenarios, but also mix in with like fantasy stuff. So I guess in some ways you could probably it does take like some inspiration from like, the level of world building like you see in like Star Wars and even some like Marvel comics. But it's like a different form of expression. Like I can't confirm whether or not like there's plans to make games based on it, but part of it's just I just like to write about like these other far off worlds and all this other stuff. Oh, and then I guess while we're on that topic, the Crayfish Entertainment website also has a sort of appendix of worlds as well. Like it's called the Crayverse. So it's like it's several like mini settings of sorts, including some extra world building details about Droplet and stuff. So if that's something like that interests you, that I check that out as well.
Actually, I did see that the Crayverse, like literally right now on my screen. Check out Dreamwalker's universe in the Crayverse, and
Oh, okay.
I looked at it and I was like, "This is actually neat." And I did check out that Galactic Crucibles page, and I also saw I could see where this is all coming from, and if anything, it kind of all ties itself together with what you explained and what you talked about today.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, side note. Side question. I believe we have talked about this, me and you, at some point. But what was the inspiration behind Crayfish?
Oh, it's actually derived from my name. So basically, my initials are KRA, and I just thought, hey, that sounds a little bit like crayfish. And then I use it like as a very early on like internet handle. This is like the early 2000s internet. No one knew who you were. I think actually the current spelling of how I have Krayfishkarl, it kind of stuck when I created like a RuneScape account, because back then like there's like this weird technical thing where the first letter had to be capitalized and everything else was lowercase. So there's a fun fact. That's why the K and the Carl is lowercase in my name. And then I don't know. It kind of stuck for a little while. Like, and I'm just thinking that. Oh yeah, I think there's also this studio called Crawfish Interactive. They're defunct now, but they made the Space Invaders game on the Game Boy Color, and I had a really fun time with that game. So I did take a little inspiration from the name of that. Like they have a logo of a little crayfish or crawfish, and then like the symbol itself. How did I do it? Oh yeah, so I think it was when I was creating the favicon. Like I wanted to draw a crayfish in there, and back then, like in early internet times, the favicons had to be like a certain like pixel width and length. So I had to fit this crayfish logo in such like a small pixelated space, and that's kind of like how I came up with the shape of it. And that's also why the tail kind of like goes to the side so that the symbol fits neatly within a square.
Oh, I see. Alright, Nick's trying to get the next question.
Yes. What is your average routine like?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
What is your average routine like?
Oh, my average routine? Well, okay, so I work from home, like, for my day job. So, like, I have a separate computer where I do that stuff, and then I have my main computer, like, on the desk over there. So, basically, get up, go to work, do that stuff there, and then when I get back, that's, like, after work, that's when I tend to work on my game for a bit, or do something related to that. So, basically, it's a very like off time type thing that I like to do, like in terms of like working on my stuff, and then.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, I was agreeing with you. I was like, going on.
Oh, okay. But yeah, of course, like I guess like making Droplet isn't all I do, because I mean, of course, like I do play like video games on occasion. I guess I haven't been playing as much as of late.
Well, you do
Basically,
like get in VR chat with us sometimes for the meetups and all that.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so I do the VR chat meetups, and then I also moderate Fia's streams as well. And a lot of that tends to be like clipping funny moments and scaring her with 666 bits.
Yeah.
You hear a lot about this streamer from DS. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
I have yet to look them up. But...
Oh, you're not familiar. Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I meant by the 666. So basically, Fia has this redeem where if you donate 666 bits, it plays Five Nights at Freddy's screams, and like it jump scares her almost every single time. It's actually kind of funny, but it's become a little running joke like in the community where it's either me or like some other guy that.
Oh, it's Kaze, isn't it?
Yeah, Kaze. That does like and then of course like I do like these edits of the Twitch streams that like out of context funny clips as well. So there's a sort of like a mischievous side to it all.
Well,
like I think you've heard of like you've heard of like YouTube poops, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love you.
Yeah, I make edits in that style. That actually some of my older videos are
okay. That's awesome.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, I've actually seen some of his old videos. Like, there's isn't there like a Star Wars Smooth Criminal thing that came my recommended recently? Actually, didn't it?
I'm very surprised how well some of my older videos are still doing. Like, I was still getting comments. Like, I made this like when I was 14 years old. I made this video on how to use a no-clip cheat to get Shaman and Pokemon Diamond, and 12 years later, I still got comments on it. I was like, people still like this. It amazes me.
Maybe it's time for a career change. Start making more Pokemon videos.
Maybe.
Yeah, if Droplet doesn't work out, Pokemon videos.
You never know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time for the last question that we have written down, at least. I'm sure if we have any more questions, we'll probably think of some while you're answering.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I kind of briefly mentioned this before. So from past talks I've had with you, we've talked about your various world building antics, like Galactic Crucibles and stuff. Yeah. And you did kind of touch on it a little bit. Would you be interested in turning any of that into games at some point, or maybe comics or books?
I've thought about it, and somewhere floating around my old hard drives, I did make a space shooter prototype that was based on them, but I'd definitely like to do more with it because there's definitely a lot of potential. I think one of the challenges is just trying to realize the story behind it, because this is a very epic in scope. Like this is multiversal and stuff, and like there's literally like hundreds of different alien species and other planets with all these own details. Actually, even just like one species can have their whole franchise of material. There's just so much to work with. It's a very ambitious project, and of course, the other challenge is that a lot of it keeps changing like over time. Actually, we've rewritten stuff multiple times. Actually, there's a running joke in the Galactic Crucibles community where I like to retcon something out of nowhere, because that actually happened a couple of times. But yeah, but if I have the time, yeah, I definitely have to sit down. I'd love to sit down and just make something based on that.
I mean, I'd even love to, like, once I'm more like fluent in programming and stuff, I'd probably like love to help you out with something like that maybe as well.
All right, I'll think about that.
Seek and right.
But yeah, that's kind of like all the questions we have like written down. I could quickly check our social medias and see if there's any questions there, though I think I've been checking every now and again. I don't think there's actually been any questions there.
Okay, all right.
But I mean, we're running on 1 hour and 9 minutes. We're looking to get an hour and 30, but I mean, we're 1 hour and 10 actually. We're on now, so I suppose we could like probably have like a bit of a general conversation then maybe for the last 20 minutes maybe, if you're up for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, of course, we've briefly mentioned like Fia and stuff.
Mhm.
So, let's talk about how long like you've been like a moderator for like when did you start being a mod for Fia?
Actually, it was very close to the time when she first started. I think I joined the community around April, so at that time she had only had the TVRS like YouTube channel out for about 2 months, and then when did I think I became a moderator like around like maybe May or June. Basically, part of it was I think she said she was looking for moderators, so then I just DM'd her one time and I said, "Hey, I can help out being a moderator," and then she said, "Sure." So then, since then, like I think a lot of where I built up my initial reputation was actually through those out of context edits. Like basically, she released a sample of her making a burp sound. Actually, we call it the FERP, like
Oh, yeah.
PHURP.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took the Megalovania song. I found a MIDI of it on the internet, and I put the burp sound into it and created a mini song about it. And I did similar treatments with like some songs from Doom, and like everyone thought that was just very hilarious. And I think probably like the magnum opus was there was a song like Galaxies by Protostar, and I mixed in Fia's voice samples into it. And I think because I did like the Patreon for Protostar for a little while, and I got like the stems for it, so I could actually change some of the instrumentation. So I think midway through the song, I changed it to be like a Rickroll, and then also I snuck in Megalovania as well. So it was just, I just got very invested creatively with mixing in like sound effects in like all these creative ways. And then also, of course, there was the fact that I had asked Fia to do a voice for Molecule because I thought she'd be a pretty good fit.
Oh yeah, she voices Molecule and Droplet, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
great.
also so here I guess here's a bit of a fun fact. So there are some lines which she actually recorded specifically for the game, but some of the grunting sounds that Molecule makes, like when she takes damage or dies, weren't created specifically for the game, but were sort of impromptu moments during streams.
So
Like
they're sampled.
it's like the dying sound, for like the when Molecule dies. Like those are clipped from moments where Fia's just very frustrated, where she's just like that. And I just took that sample and then I just cleaned up the audio and then I just put it into the game, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I started modding for Fia around like wasn't it like November last year. But before then, I actually joined in like September of last year, and I kind of just like chilled there for a bit because I was looking to start VTubing and stuff, and I started like I talked about VTubing. I went to start doing VTubing on my Twitter. I think Nick's actually saw the tweet. I think Nick's, correct me on that if I'm wrong. It was you or someone else. Yeah. But I never actually like properly pursued it. I still technically haven't properly pursued it. But I joined the Fia Discord to see if I could like get any help or anything. But I just saw the community was like really nice. I started getting active and stuff, and I started like going in VCs and everything, and people started joining and all that. And then there was that one time I started making that Fia mod for Minecraft, Bedrock Edition, if you remember. And
Oh yeah, I remember that.
you came in to see it and Ventus did as well. And I think the day after that, or maybe the day after that,
Mhm.
I got like a DM from Fia, and she was like, "Oh hey, yeah, do you have any like experience modding?" And like, "Oh, do you want to like join the mod team?" And all that. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool."
Oh yeah, actually, that does remind me of it. Like, I guess going back to a little when I first joined the mod. So the way I discovered TVRS was actually very interesting. It was actually through my Galactic Crucibles. Actually, one of my friends there was a Porter Robinson fan, and he found Fia's video. And basically it showed this whole virtual reality thing, and Galactic Crucibles actually has a couple of subplots about aliens that do stuff with virtual reality. So
Oh yeah,
it just kind of blew my mind because I had no idea that any of this stuff was actually real. Like I thought it was just like imaginary science fiction stuff, and I was just thinking, whoa, okay, this is the real 21st century now. So okay, I got to check this out. This whole channel and stuff. And then what video? I think there was there's a like a lot of our early. There was one about like creating worlds in VR, like one of our early videos, I think. And I don't remember. I don't remember who it was, but I think it was like. I think his name was like Joaquin, like one of the guys that Fia interviewed. That was that video. Those were the videos that convinced me to join the Discord.
Yeah.
So it all comes full circle. Like everything's interrelated.
Speaking of full circle, Carl, do you remember, like, I think it was last week or a week before, when I told you about my time in the VR Chat clones, and I mentioned that one of the people in this podcast was actually there with me at that time?
Mm-hmm.
Kilpo's that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
glad to meet you then.
Kelpo,
Very interesting times back then.
the good old 501st soldier.
Very interesting times.
It was very interesting times.
That's the greatest.
Well, you've done a great service to the Republic.
Sure,
until
maybe
we
I
all-
did.
Yeah, until we all jumped ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, the entire time I was there, I was quiet
Oh, you know,
and I did what I was told.
you were like dead silent. Like you hardly ever talked, and I'd just casually come over there, like, and slap you or something, like during training. Like I'd come in randomly, and I'd be like, "Huh,
But
right,"
yeah,
and I'd just like slap someone, and it'd probably end up being you. Yeah. We do definitely get to talk about that at some point as well, Carpo, because I believe I've told Carl about this, but I haven't told you yet. But I have been working on a little something that I would need your help for. But we'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah. Do that in a bit. I'd be down for that.
Well, we're coming up on about an hour and 20 minutes.
There is a question. This could just because I do have one question, just one more question. This has
Alright.
nothing to do with gaming or book writing. It's just because I'm a humongous music nerd, and I have to ask: do you play any instruments or have any interest in music?
Oh, actually, I'm glad you asked. So, I learned playing music, but actually in high school, I played a trumpet, and then I also had like this Casio keyboard. Like I never learned how to properly play the piano, but I just kind of messed around with it. But my instrument, I'd like to call it'd be FL Studio. So I composed all of Droplet's soundtrack, and that's been like my main big project. I also did a couple of music tracks for my currently untitled next game as well, of a different genre. But yeah, I do a lot of music making. I take a lot of inspiration from like actually synthwave is a bit of a sort of like that genre, but also leaning more towards like N64 style music, but with higher quality like VSTs.
Yeah.
I love synthwave music. It's amazing. It's like just listen to when you're chilling and like working on projects and stuff. I've actually found like a bunch of really good like synthwave tracks, but I've also found this really nice really good track on Spotify. It's about like a cyberpunk kind of future, where like robots exist, but humanity are drawn on it, and the song is called Probots and Robophobes.
Well, that's a funny title.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you guys later. It's actually a really good song. I vibe with it, if you will.
Yeah, I think for me, like I like the music from it's from Thor Ragnarok. Basically, is Mark. How do you say it? Is it like Mark Mothersbaugh, bro, or like he was one of the Actually, he was actually one of Crash Bandicoot's composers. That's probably why I like the music of that movie so much.
Danny Elfman makes good soundtracks and stuff. Like he did the soundtrack for Multiverse of Madness and the original 3 Spider-Man movies. And
Oh yeah, he's a classic as well. And you can't
Yeah.
forget Nightmare Before Christmas.
and Batman.
Yeah.
You know, Dave is who's that one guy that we've been trying to get on Nerdcast? This Nerd.Inc Podcast for a very long time.
Oh,
You know
Schaefer
exactly.
James.
Schaefer James.
The classic. All right, a bit of backstory here.
Classic.
So, me and Kelpo listened to this guy called Schaefer James. Makes really nice like gothic music. Like it's really great. We kept trying to get him on the podcast. I did actually interact with him like pretty recently. I can't remember how recently, but I still interacted with him. He's actually opening a Patreon soon, I think, which would be
Really?
interesting.
That would be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just like we were trying to get him on the podcast for, like about a month and a half before we left for a while,
Yeah.
and it was like that was an experience because we weren't entirely sure. We waited a really long time for like simple response. Like
Yeah, that was kind of a thing and a half, like a phase. I don't think he's put out anything new recently, but like still his songs like slap, honestly.
have you checked him out, Crayfish? Ever have you heard of him?
Actually, I don't know too much about like what's going on with the music these days. Like, I guess like I am a little bit under the rock, or living under a rock, like in terms of like what's going on out there. But I mean, yeah, I'd like to know what all sorts of other artists are up to, because just to see like what the general direction of where music is going these days.
Yeah, I mean we can send you some like album links later for like Schaefer James and some like other smaller like indie artists if you want later.
Yeah, sure. Because I think what is kind of inspiring about, because I think sometimes like when I'm working on a song, like I have these certain like sound samples and stuff. Sometimes I pick up on them in other songs that I'm listening to, and I was like, "Hey, I see what you did. You have that exact instrument and sound library. I see what you did there."
Yeah, I think you've actually talked about that once before in DMs, maybe, or a voice call that we've been in.
Oh yeah, like the Omnisphere library, for example.
Yeah.
Like if you've listened to some of like the stock samples in it, you might start hearing it everywhere. But yeah, actually, that is a bit of like a nerdy topic for me, like just sound samples in general. I could rattle on for days about those.
Have you guys heard any of like the news today?
Oh, I haven't been. Well, what do you mean? Like,
I heard a bit of unfortunate news. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched the TV show The Sopranos.
sounds familiar.
It's about this guy called Tony Soprano. He's a mob boss in America. And this guy, this actor who died, I can't remember what his name was, but he plays this character called Paulie. And Paulie's like probably like the best character in the show. I haven't actually watched the show, but I've seen like YouTube shorts of it, and he's like the funniest character in it.
Oh, I did see something like that come up in my news feed. Yeah, it's pretty tragic.
Yeah. It seems like we're losing a lot of good people lately.
Yeah, I think we lost the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah,
Couple days ago.
Yeah, and God, what else is there? Japan recently lost their ex-prime minister, was it?
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's all over Twitter. You know, people are actually blaming Kojima for that, like Hideo Kojima.
Really?
Because people like put images up of Hideo Kojima saying it was him who, like, because the ex-prime minister was killed with a shotgun. A bit morbid, I know. But people were posting pictures of Hideo Kojima, saying, "Oh no, this is the main suspect," and we're like, "That's Hideo Kojima. He's a game developer."
Oh my god! Wow.
And
It can be weird sometimes.
Yeah. This isn't probably a wise thing to say on the podcast, so we're gonna not talk about it. But I'm gonna say there was a bit of controversy recently about him, like a picture of him holding, Death Stranding. The cases with the babies in them, the bridge babies.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a picture of him holding one of those, and people got a bit mad over it because they thought he was doing something else with it. We'll talk about it after the recording.
I feel like people will take any picture of somebody who's pretty like big or like has a big following, and I don't know why, but some people will just try and figure out every single way to seek their downfall. And I never understood that mindset.
It's mostly jealousy.
It is actually.
Yeah.
It probably is. Yeah. But I just never understood. It's like, not doing anything wrong. There's like how Kojima, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
How he was just holding Death Stranding, and it's like people were saying, people were saying stuff, and it's like I don't get that mindset because like you're just making something up. You're pulling that out of nowhere with no evidence.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't really bother too much with it because I figure like in the time you spend like kind of sort of berating someone, I guess you could probably be spending that time doing more fulfilling things.
Yeah, like working on the hit game Droplet States of Matter.
Well, yes, exactly.
Available on Steam for a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we are actually reaching the 1.5 hour mark now, which is good, so we're on schedule. After being 3 hours off schedule.
Oh.
That's mostly my fault, though. Yeah. So, I'd like to thank everyone for listening to the comeback episode of the Nerd.Inc Podcast. I'd like to thank Nix for joining us. I'd like to thank Kelpo for joining us. And, of course, I'd like to thank Krayfishkarl for joining us for this interview here today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We very appreciate the time that you spent with us.
Yeah.
Talking about your game and just how the everyday life of a game developer.
Yeah, glad to be on this podcast.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll see you guys in probably 2 weeks' time when we start recording our next episode, because we're going to be recording these in a 2-week gap between episodes, because that was kind of our mistake last time. We tried to record an episode a week and get it out the same day. That was horrible.
Never again.
Yeah, no.
Never again.
Never again. But yeah, anyone want to add some final words?
Eat your vegetables.
Eat your vegetables. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Kofa, what's that thing you used to say?
What was the thing I used to say?
Wasn't it like fasten your seatbelts or something? Oh no, that was like Odd Ones Out, wasn't it? Sorry.
I really. God, what did I say?
I swear you used to have like a thing.
Drink your water.
That's it. Drink your water.
Oh, or as Pia likes to say, hydrate, big sip.
Oh yeah, hydrate, big sip. Yeah. All right.
Your big sip.
Carl, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, stay awesome, guys, and like if you have creative projects going on, keep working on them.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
Or start a new one if you're not working on one.
Yeah, be inventive.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Keep being sus imposter among us.
I was waiting for you
I
to say
kinda
something like that this
revolted
whole
at that
time.
sentence, I
Never.
won't lie.
Never gets old. Never gets old.